Hello, everybody. Welcome to Candidates Corner. This is Greater Seattle Korean Association's interviews with candidates and current electeds and civic leaders. And today we're very excited to have Osman Salahuddin. Welcome, Osman.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Osman is currently our state representative for Legislative District 48, and then we'll let Osman explain, exactly kind of where that touches. But just very quickly, before we have Osman just share his thoughts for our community, this is not an endorsement, but rather, again, Candidates Corner is so that really, we get to know our candidates so that we as the voters can make more informed decisions and educated decisions. So, basically we know much more about who we're electing into office. Okay, great. So Osman, we're just very curious to know, perhaps you could just start us off by just going into a little bit about your background. Yeah, okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. So my name is Osman Salahuddin. I am the current state representative for the 48th Legislative District, which includes the communities of Bellevue, Kirkland, Redmond, and the Points communities, which have Medina, Yarrow Point, Clyde Hill, and Hunts Point. So over 157,000 people. This includes over 43% immigrants and over 51% people of color. It's an incredibly diverse district and one that I am proud to call home for my entire life. I was born and raised in Redmond and still currently live there, where I went to local public schools. I stayed at home when I attended the University of Washington, and I truly am devoted to giving back to my community. I'll track back a little bit by saying, most of my service or all of my service is due to my parents. My parents immigrated here, and my dad works as a small business owner. He owns print shops in the area. My mother is a special education preschool paraeducator. And through them, I learned the values of resilience, but truly the importance of our immigrant community in our networks. We really have to prioritize how we're taking care of our immigrant and refugee communities. And that's been a strong backbone for my service, not just currently in the legislature, but previously on city council in Redmond, and even formerly when I was at the University of Washington and served as student body president. That was my first foray into legislative advocacy, going down to Olympia, testifying on behalf of undocumented students to give them access to the college-bound scholarship. At the university, I also studied neuroscience, so I have a science background, and my degree, tying into healthcare, is truly one of my passions to ensure that communities all across our state have access to high-quality care, healthcare, both in terms of physical health and mental health. But my work has been, done in the professional sense along those lines, working in medical device consulting, helping start a nonprofit to help underrepresented communities get into the healthcare space, and really advocating for communities across the board when I worked for King County in the office of King County Councilmember Sarah Perry. I'll close by just saying, my position right now in the legislature has been short. I started this session and was appointed, but I was very glad to make a huge impact already for the 48th Legislative District. I got 6 bills passed this session, along with securing millions of dollars for our district in the capital, operating and transportation budget. So I'm really grateful to my community in the 48th Legislative District, and I'm looking forward to getting to know many more residents to come.
All right, thank you very much, Osman. So, as our state representative, I'm sure there's a lot of wins and joys that you've experienced, and you touched upon that already with the 6 bills that you passed, which congratulations, that's amazing.
Thank you.
But that doesn't come without struggles. And so perhaps could you talk a little bit about that and what's kind of been some of the struggles and how did you guys kind of overcome that? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great question. I think, especially as we're talking about all of the legislative wins that we had, fully funding special education, making sure that we passed a robust budget that took care of health, housing, and human services for all residents across Washington. There were definitely some struggles that, I really want to touch base on. We had a huge budget deficit, and so when we went into session, I was actually appointed 6 days before session started. It was our task to balance the budget as our state code stipulates, but making sure that we didn't cut very necessary services and resources while ensuring that we didn't overburden our communities with taxes. There were many tax bills that we took votes on, but I think one of the struggles really as we were discussing the financial forecast is that we had this looming federal landscape that came over, making sure that we accounted for the now what we're seeing, the federal cuts to SNAP, to Medicare, to all of the immigration proceedings. That federal effect, not just last session, but continuing forward, will take its course, and it's something that we are tracking really closely. Last session was also tough with the personal side. I do want to highlight and flag the loss of late Senator Bill Ramos, who was a mentor of mine, and just seeing the incredible impact that both himself as well as former Speaker Frank Chop had on our community, not just in our respective districts, but across the entire state, is one that definitely made this session a struggle. I'll just close to this by saying, with all of that struggle did come a lot of success. We passed some incredible bills. I mentioned the 6 that I passed, and one that I really want to highlight is actually drawn from my own experience as the child of immigrants, where I was able to get now into law. You're able to use your paid sick leave that you have already earned at your workplace for immigration proceedings for yourself or your family members. So if you are dealing with an immigration proceeding, or your family members are, you're able to take that time off of work that you really need. I'm the only South Asian representative in the House currently, and it's my duty, I believe, to represent all communities, especially those that are marginalized in Washington State.
Okay. Thank you, Representative. And finally, you're looking to retain your seat for Legislative District 48. So with everything that you've learned and looking forward ahead for Legislative District 48, if retained, sort of what kind of vision are you casting for the future of LD 48? Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I have 3 top-line priorities that I really want to make sure we can touch base on. Is housing, ensuring that we have housing for all residents, and right now that means housing supply. We are not building fast enough to meet the demand that our communities are requiring, along with the fact that we just don't have affordable housing. So creating incentives, making sure that we streamline permitting, making more development possible across our jurisdictions will be a priority of mine. I have bills that I dropped last session that will be continuing on this year that I will really focus on making sure that we have housing for our community members. A second is immigration. I touched base on this previously, but our immigrant community members, immigrant and refugee community members, they need support now more than ever. There are very real fears going through communities. As I've been talking to neighbors at the doors, that's the first thing that comes up is, what are you doing to support our immigrant community members? And my district, I mentioned, 43% of residents come from different countries. I want to make it my mandate to ensure that no one feels threatened, no one feels fear, and no one feels that they are not welcome in our state. So that comes with potential financial, investments from our state, but also policy that's really thoughtful, like the one that I, passed this year. We need to ensure that across the board, whether it's within the workforce, whether it's within small business support, how are we making sure that our immigrant and refugee community members have the most support that they need to thrive? Finally, economic viability. I'm very fortunate to have some large companies in my district, Microsoft and Amazon to name a few, that do give back to our community. But making sure that we are not only promoting economic viability from this corporate landscape, but also that trickle down to the small businesses. I mentioned my dad's a small business owner. That ecosystem will really help our state thrive as we're continuing to move towards this digital age with the growth of AI. With that, we also need to prioritize our workers. We have many, many working families across our state that are struggling to make ends meet. And with the federal demands of cuts to Medicare and SNAP, we have to ensure that our workers across industries have jobs that are available, jobs that pay prevailing wage, and jobs that are accessible to them in their own communities. I started with housing, and this ties back to this whole ecosystem of how do we create communities. I'm very fortunate to have Redmond, Bellevue, Kirkland within my own district that are walkable, that are livable for folks that actually work there, that have the best schools in our communities. Education is a top priority of mine as well, but tying into, to close the overarching policy priorities that I think our legislature needs to focus on are affordability and accessibility. If we prioritize ensuring that we're making things affordable, from gas to education, from housing to small business support, we can create a community that thrives for everyone. And access, whether it's language access, so access to resources or services, or just making sure that folks have information available to them about grants, about events, about opportunities that the state is hosting, we can truly create a community that understands what government is doing for them and how they can give back.
Okay, amazing, Representative. Thank you so much. Everyone, viewers again, and voters, this is re current State Representative, Legislative District 48, Osman Salahuddin. And thank you again for coming and
Thank
just
you.
sharing your vision. Do you have like a website or you'd like to share with our viewers or? Yeah.
Absolutely. To learn more, you can go to www.electosman.com. That's ELECTOSMAN.
All right, awesome. So are we going to give a shout out to the Korean community? All
Absolutely.
right, let's do it. Okay, 감사합니다.
감사합니다.
Bye.